Hey there, and welcome to today's video. For today's video, I realized during my last build that I actually hadn't built just a house in quite a while. And I decided this time around to just build a house, a bit more on the traditional side than I think what I would have normally built. But here's the thing, I just really wanted to build a family house, especially because lately there have been a lot of updates for the Sims 4 base game. I'm not sure if it's because of the 21-year celebration or if it's because they realized they've been skipping a bit on base game, but I feel like lately there have been a lot more updates just for base game. I'm super happy, don't get me wrong. I just find it kind of weird that after so long they're finally being like, I guess we should do this for base game. So, in case you didn't know, The Sims have actually been out for 21 years now. It's been 21 years since a couple months back, I believe. But recently, I believe at the beginning of the month, they had an update where they did a 21-year celebration. So last year, for their 20th year, they added a hot tub, which, yes, we didn't have a hot tub in base game, but I also don't see a lot of people using it. So for their 21 years, they actually added 21 new items, and they got together with custom content creators and ended up getting a whole bunch of items. So some of them are for building, some of them are for cast or create a sim if you're not familiar with the term. Some others were more for LPs or Let's Plays or whenever you're just playing around with Sims. I believe there were some food items that were added. And among all that, I believe that constituted the 21 new items. So you might have seen me using some of those items here and there. So there's a new dresser, a new console, a new table, some new chairs, some new bar stools, even a mirror. I wanted to use it in the kids' bedroom, but you'll see how cramped it is and why it did not fit in there. But long story short, there are a whole bunch of new items that were actually really appreciated, considering that this is something that was given to everyone in Sims 4 completely free. You did not need to purchase anything, you did not need to do anything special besides just update your game, and all of a sudden you had all these new items. And it was really cool to see just some new items coming into the game. Now that was around the beginning of the month. We are now closer to the end of the month, and just this Tuesday on the 23rd, we had yet another update, and this was quite a big update. There were a lot of bug fixes, but we finally have bunk beds in The Sims 4. This was something that a lot of people were asking why we never had since before, considering that there was so much you could do with bunk beds in The Sims 3. Now, while we do have bunk beds, there's a couple different options. There's 2 frames. I don't believe they added anything for any packs. This is solely base game for now. So you only get the 2 frames for the bunk bed itself. One being wooden, and I guess you could say a bit more traditional, and the other one being metal. Now, with that, you have 2 options. You can either get it with both beds already on there, or you could get a lofted bunk bed. The issue with a lofted bunk bed, which a lot of us realized right the second the update came out, is it's still a bit wonky. You can't really add a full-size desk underneath the lofted bed and have it work. The issue is that wherever the stairs are, that tile is unusable. You can use the tile next to it, but not the tile with the stairs. So it's basically a matter of you can either have the bed as decoration, which I don't really see why you would do that, or just put another bed or add something to just the one slot instead of both. So it's still a work in progress, but it's really appreciated that we now finally have the bunk beds. Besides that, there were a whole bunch of additions to base game as well. A lot of the posters that featured a person in general, so whether that's a portrait or whether that's a poster or whatever it was, they got a lot more diversity into them, which I also tried to feature those a lot throughout this house, as that is another update that came with the base game just on the 23rd. So again, both of these updates came out, I believe, this month. If the 21-year anniversary didn't come out this month, it must have been late last month, but it hasn't been too long at all. I was super excited for the bunk beds like everyone else, mainly because it also added a whole new bed to the game. So this bed, I believe it was mentioned that it came in Parenthood, but they now made this one into a base game bed. And I hear you, this is an item which a lot of people paid for the pack, and now it's available just in base game. but it was also necessary to give functionality to the bunk beds. I believe they could have made a bed completely from scratch and had that metal frame as well, but this bed seemed to be the one that worked the best, so I can't really fault them for using an asset that already existed somewhere else. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they've actually done that before with clothing as well. I think they've added a few pieces of clothing in cast that are actually from some packs, but just reskinned. I don't believe this bed is exactly reskinned. I think it's exactly the bed as you would get it in the pack, but it's still something that I believe will be for the benefit of everyone, since the trade-off was everyone now gets bunk beds. Now, I know in general I've only spoken about a couple items here and there. I don't think I've mentioned even 10 new items, but if you think about it, this adds so much to the game. Sims 4 has been out for well over 5 years. I believe it's 6 going on 7 by this point. And for them to still be adding new things this late into the game is just amazing for everyone that actually loves playing the game. It just means that everyone gets more items to play with, and everyone gets a bit of a new feel to the game. There are so many items just in base game that even now I'm still going through and I'm saying, huh, that was base game? I didn't know that. Or just finding them for the first time in debug, for example, and seeing all these items that I never would have thought would have been part of base game. Now, that is most of the updates out of the way. I wanted to talk about the house itself as well, since after all, you're seeing me building the house, might as well talk a bit about it. I really wanted a wraparound roof on the second floor, so that's why it's a lot skinnier than the bottom floor. But as you probably saw, that also created a whole bunch of issues because that meant that the rooms were smaller than I expected. The master bedroom ended up being gigantic, but I also didn't want the upstairs hallway to be very big. So let's call it a win-win. The kitchen also ended up being gigantic. Pretty much everything on the first floor is pretty big. If I think about it, I probably should have put a bedroom down there, but I ended up going for an office area instead since I really like the idea of having the turret be an office. Although, is it a turret if it doesn't go too high up? That's a debate. For most of this build, I actually cut out a couple things, just since it was actually quite a lengthy build since the house was a lot bigger than what I've been building lately. So you won't see anything for the bathrooms, maybe one thing here and there. You won't really see much of how the roof was done, and you won't see a lot of landscaping either. You'll see them once I go around painting the whole house. I sometimes tend to paint the room first and then furnish it later, but in this one I found myself furnishing everything first and then painting it later. I felt like there were certain items I wanted to be certain colors and decided to just find whichever colors work for that later on. The backyard, I also wanted to make most of the use of it. So this house, as I was building it, I realized that it is longer than it is deep. So the house is quite long, but it's not very deep. And the same could be said about the backyard. I wanted to make a bit of a deck area with a barbecue and a table and all that, and that gave me a very narrow space, so I thought I might as well build a bit of a lap pool. I think it ended up being like 3 tiles wide, so it's not very wide at all, but it's quite long, so I'll take that. And besides that, there was just some landscaping here and there. I did make this house with the mentality of having 2 toddlers, 2 children, maybe a kid and a teen. You can actually sleep any age you want in the bed, as long as they're not a toddler. Toddlers and, well, babies have their own beds, but you can sleep anyone from a child to an elder in a bunk bed, which works out great. I, however, made it with a mentality of it being probably 2 children or a child and a teen, and the master bedroom. So quite a bit going on with the house, and even the style I felt like was a bit all over the place. And I did that on purpose since I felt like the kitchen would have been an area that had been updated here and there, but kept very much to what it was originally. So this house would have had a gigantic kitchen from the get-go already. But anyways, we are getting close to the end of the video. Let me know what you think down below. Do you like some of the new items? I'm wondering if some of you were able to spot them. You might have seen me use some of them here and there more than once, but let me know regardless. I feel like it's something really cool that The Sims 4 did for their community, and I'd like to see them moving forward with that. I'd like to see more CC creators getting involved with Maxis Match items that are in the game themselves. I wonder if the next one is going to be something like a stuff pack made solely from CC creators. That would be really cool to see. But anyways, thank you once again so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a great weekend.